Hi, thanks for joining me today. We are in our cover-to-cover Bible study, line by line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. We allow the Bible to interpret itself. We don't go to outside sources. That's what we're all about here. Anyway, we are up to chapter 24 of Genesis. I don't know if you can see Miss Delilah back there. She's listening intently, and let's pray that she remains quiet during the session. So what we're going to see here, last chapter we saw that Abraham buried Sarah, and now we're going to see him arranging for a marriage for Isaac. This is Abraham, yeah. And isn't that what life is all about, guys? We go from the funerals to the weddings, and everything in between. And so we get to walk through this with Abraham, and we get to pull and glean from there just pearls of wisdom, knowledge, and biblical discernment. So on that note, Lord, I'm praying that you will be with us, Lord, to help us pull and retrieve these pearls of wisdom from your word today, Lord. And also, Lord, that when what we're going to see here is a surrendering willingness to be led by the Spirit of the Lord in this situation that Abraham's going to demonstrate, Lord. And I pray that each and every one of us could tuck that into our hearts and remember it when we have major decisions to be made in our lives, that we should allow ourselves to be led by you, Father, because you will never steer us wrong. And I thank you for that, Lord, that you're a good, good Father. And in your mighty name I pray. Amen. Verse 1. And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Jehovah had blessed Abraham in all things. Guys, I said it before, right? This life matters. And I believe that the Lord just favors those that are walking, at least with a heart to please him and making that effort to please him. I do. I really do. Satan blesses people too, but their blessings don't last. They certainly don't last into the eternity. But for the most part, what Satan's really going to do is destroy them one way or the other. And usually, if they have been blessed in one area, there's a whole lot of not so great things happening in other areas of their lives because they are not walking in the blessings and favor of God. They are walking in their own strength, might, and it's kind of selling out to the prince of this world. Okay, so Abraham is blessed. He's old. We see he's very old. And what we're going to see here is he's going to give his servant instructions. This is his elder servant, the master of the house. Very possibly, scholars say, Eleazar. I don't know if you were with me a few chapters back, but Abraham was kind of complaining to the Lord, or pointing out anyway, that he had no heirs at that time. And, I guess Eleazar is going to inherit everything because, and that was his master servant who was in charge of his house. And the Lord said, no, that's not going to be your heir. Your heir will come from your own loins. And so scholars say this very possibly could have been Eleazar because all these years he'd been with Abraham and was given this great responsibility and this great trust to go locate a bride for Isaac. So verse 2, and Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his house, that ruled over all that he had, put, I pray you, your hand under my thigh. What? This is weird, right? And I will make you swear by Jehovah, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take away from my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but you will go to my country and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Isaac. So what's happening here? Well, first of all, putting your hand under the thigh as an oath was not uncommon. It was used for very solemn, very important oaths because, the idea was to put your hand under the thigh close to the point of circumcision, right? And the idea is that if you do not follow through with this promise that you are making, that the God of heaven and the God of earth, because there's the point right there where we have cut off the flesh and did this to mark us for the Lord, he himself will execute vengeance on you. So it was a very serious, solemn oath. And why is it that Abraham, is sending this guy all the way back to his hometown, which, by the way, it was like a 500 miles, but that wasn't the most well-traveled route. The most well-traveled route was more like 900 miles. So this is not, go next door and find a wife. This is a long trek, which also is why Abraham is making sure he makes it clear that his deathbed, wish is that Isaac never take a Canaanite wife from this area, because there's a really good chance that Abraham may not even be alive when this servant comes back. So he needs to make that clear. Number one, never a Canaanite wife. Number two, I'm going to send you all the way back to my hometown, and I want you to locate a wife there. But he's going to give him specific instructions, and this is a good servant. This servant really does honor and want to be obedient and led by the Lord. And led is the key word for this chapter. Being led by the Lord. So what's with this no Canaanites, no Canaanite women? You're going to see this theme played out later too when Isaac tries to hook up his son Jacob with a wife. So Abraham had watched these pagans just kind of decline and become more wicked and more polluted, and he did not want Isaac to be watered down and influenced by them. And that's really, the Bible talks frequently about being unequally yoked. What does that mean? Well, it's kind of an agricultural phenomenon where, two oxen would be yoked together and to plow the field. But if you had one, if they weren't equal, if they weren't both of equal strength and equal knowledge of what to do, how to do this, then what would happen is the stronger or more experienced oxen would take a lead that would cause the weaker one to fall back, and they'd end up going around circles and circles. So, and translating that into human relationships, we are asked to be equally yoked, because, how can two walk together if they're going in different directions, right? And it's just a principle that the Lord wants us to follow when we yoke ourselves to other people. Well, what do you mean yoke, Maggie? Well, I mean marriage, I mean business relationships, and I mean close friends that you let into your inner circle. You really should be equally yoked to them, because it's just it's just going to be imbalanced, and there's always going to be some heading in the wrong direction there. Am I saying, I am not advocating, it's not, guys, it's not a monetary thing. It's not an education thing. It's really a spiritual thing. Okay. It's about being on the same page as regarding following the Lord and loving the Lord. I always say this about marriage, it's not about, if you find yourself struggling with your spouse, put Jesus in the center. And, rather than arguing about what you want, what I want, what you want, what I want, let's just both pray about what Jesus wants. And if we both love him more than we love each other, and we want to please him, and he wants to prosper us, see how it all works out? I know. That might be an oversimplification, but nonetheless, that's the overarching concept. So why isn't Abraham going himself? Why is he sending this servant? Well, there's two possible reasons. Number one, he's old, really old. Okay. Number two, it could be that he just doesn't want to go back there. I mean, he left his family, and it's not to say that he doesn't love his family, but sometimes going backwards has a draw on us and prevents us from moving forward. And I think that's why you're going to see he's going to instruct the servant, do not bring Isaac back there. You find a woman and you bring her here, but you do not, and look, we're going to go right into it in this next verse here. Verse 5, the servant said to him, Abraham, Suppose the woman's not willing to follow me to this land. I mean, it is a long ways, right? She's going by faith because she doesn't even know Isaac, never even met him. She's going to say, yeah, I'll travel 900 miles and marry a guy that I never even met. Sure, right? And he says, should I take your son back to the land from where you came? Like, in other words, if God forbid you die, right? And she doesn't want to come, should I come back and bring him? And Abraham says to him, beware that you do not take my son back there. Why? Well, you're pretty adamant about this, right? This is not even an open for discussion. And I think the reason is that Abraham had embraced the promised land, the promise of the promised land. He does not want Isaac leaving. If he goes back, he's going to get distracted. He's going to start doing other things, and he's going to forget about his focus and his purpose, which is to create this nation and have the Lord give them this land that he has promised to them. So that's why. So verse 7, Jehovah the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my nativity, and who spoke to me and who swore to me, saying, unto your seed will I give you this land. He will send his angel before you, and he will take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be clear from my oath. In other words, deal's off. If the woman will not follow you back, deal's off, you're free from your oath, we're good. Only you will not bring my son there again. Very clear on that. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master's, and swore to him concerning this matter. So apparently, God has already told Abraham, don't worry, I'm going to send an angel to follow this mission, to supervise this mission. And Abraham had every faith and confidence that this is what had to be done. Okay. And again, Abraham's kind of anticipating that he just might die in the process, so it's got to be made clear. Verse 10. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of the master and departed, having all goodly things of his master's in his hand. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. Wow, this is quite a caravan here. 10 camels and a whole lot of stuff. He's bringing a whole lot of stuff, okay? It was a substantial amount of wealth. And of course, we know that Abraham was very wealthy. And this was a very long trip, so obviously he needed provisions, but we get the impression that he brought a lot more than just provisions. He brought a lot of stuff with him. And we're going to see later what he does with it. So Abraham had a brother named Nahor, and he also had a grandfather with the same name. So this servant is going all the way back to that land from where the Ur of the Chaldeans, where Abraham was called from way at the very beginning. Okay, next verse 11. And he made the camels to kneel down without so now he's there. He's already there, 900 miles gone, and he's there, and he's got all his camels with him. And he made the camels to kneel down without the city, so he's right outside the city, by the well of the water at the time of evening, the time that women go out to draw water. So he's at the outskirts of the city where there was typically the well, and the women would come out and draw water from the well and bring it back to the city. And he's waiting there, and he has all his camels just laying there. And he tells them, relax. And this would be a typical day, or a typical day for these women to just do this on a daily basis, retrieve water for their household. So what does he do? This is a good servant, right? This is a good servant. He prays. Verse 12, and he says, O Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, send me, I pray you, good speed this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Gosh, I really do believe that the Lord loves it when we pray for other people. We're just so inclined to pray for our own needs and wants and desires and hopes and aspirations, but praying for other people just has this, it's just so pleasing to the Lord. It's so pleasing. Behold, I am standing by the fountain of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. And let it come to pass that the damsel to whom I shall say, let down your pitcher, I pray you, that I might drink, that she says, drink, and I will give your camels drink also. And let the same be she that you have appointed to your servant Isaac. And thereby will I know that you have showed kindness to my master. Okay, what is he saying? Here's what he's saying. He's asking for a sign, and a very specific one, mind you. Now, I don't think we should really tell God what to do, but this is not that. This is not telling God what to do. This is God, this is what I want. I want this, that to happen, and then when that happens, that's what I want to do next. That's not what this is. This is a heartfelt plea saying, Lord, I don't want to pick the wrong woman. You know who she is. I trust you, Lord. So this is how I want it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask for a drink. And if she's the right woman, then have her offer my camels a drink without my even asking. Okay? And then I'll know. Then I'll know, Lord. Now, why is that such a big deal, offering? I'll tell you why it's a big deal. Because the average camel drink a lot of water, especially after these long treks, right? I'm not saying you went all 900 miles without any water, but I'm saying they would be thirsty. So it would take a long time to water all 10 camels. And the type of woman who would offer that without being asked even is a servant's heart. A woman who is willing to take the time out of her day, quite a block of time, to help a stranger and his camel. That's the kind of woman he's looking for Isaac. So there was a purpose besides the confirmation factor. Like, I want to make sure that we both, the Lord, the woman I choose is the woman you choose, right? So it's all done in the right spirit. Talked about this last time, right? How it's all a heart matter. The Lord knows your heart. You can't mask it. You can't hide it. He knows your heart. And this guy's asking for confirmation with the right spirit and the right heart, because he does not want to fail Abraham or Isaac, and he wants to do the Lord's bidding here. And so this woman would, for a woman to do this, she would have had to have been charitable, others-minded, right? And that's what he's looking for this boy Isaac, right? This is the promised child after all. And she has to be something special. Okay, verse 15. And it came to pass before he had done even speaking. So he's there praying. And even before he finishes his prayer, Rebekah comes out. Can you hear the angels? Can you hear the angels singing Rebekah? And Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came with her pitcher upon her shoulder. Enter Rebekah. So this is how gracious. I mean, thank you, Lord, that even before we finish our prayers, you have heard them and you are on it. You are on it. You're going to see this in the book of Daniel, that Daniel prays and then 21 days and nothing happens. But the angel that finally shows up says, I was dismissed like when you first prayed. I was on coming, but something held me back. I'm not going to spoil that for you, so you're just going to have to wait till we get to the book of Daniel to learn what hinders prayers, or who, I should say. Okay, so here comes Rebekah, and she is the granddaughter of Abraham's brother, Nahor. Verse 16, and the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin. Neither had any man known her, and she went down to the fountain and filled her pitcher and came up. So when they say the Bible, we are to understand that Rebekah was very beautiful. And by the way, not every woman is referred to as beautiful. There's really only a handful of women that are referred to as beautiful in the Bible. So the Bible really wants you to understand we're talking just so like beauty beyond beauty, and it's probably an internal beauty as well as an external beauty. Who was beautiful? Well, Sarah was. Rebekah is. Rachel will be. We'll see. We'll meet Abigail later, becomes a wife of David. Bathsheba, also a wife of David. Tamar and Esther. And I think that's it. And the daughters of Job. I believe in the book of Job, his daughters are referred to as being exceptionally beautiful. Other than that, those are the only ones. Okay, verse 17. And the servant ran to meet her and said, "Give me a drink, I pray you, a little water from your pitcher." And she said, "Drink, my lord." And she hasted and let down her pitcher upon her hand and gave him drink. And when she had done giving him drink, she said, "I will draw for your camels also until they are done drinking." And she hasted and emptied her pitcher to the trough and ran again to the well to draw and drew for all his camels. There it is, confirmation. I find the Lord does confirm his word when our hearts are truly wanting to please him, when our hearts are truly wanting to be obedient. We say, "Lord, is this what you want me to do?" Confirm it, And he's often gracious to do just that. And so it was important that he not even suggest it, because, then she would just be being polite. "I don't really want to do this, but he asked, so I sort of have to." And so he didn't say a word about it, but she offered. And that was the confirmation that he was looking for, that this girl would have the heart of a servant, not just the mouth of a servant, right? And now we're going to see, what do you know? Lo and behold, she is from Abraham's family. Exactly the target family that he was here to locate and to find a woman from that would be suitable for Isaac. So verse 21. And the man looked steadfastly on her, holding his peace to know whether Jehovah had made his journey prosperous or not. And it came to pass, as the camels had been done drinking, that the man took a golden ring and a half shekel and 2 bracelets for her hands and 10 shekels weight of gold. Nice. And said, "Whose daughter are you? Tell me, I pray. Is there room in your father's house for us to lodge in?" So now he's trying to figure out what family she's coming from, because he doesn't know yet that she's the granddaughter of Nahor. So he's kind of, fishing, and he's giving her gifts because, we need a place to stay, and he's being gracious. Verse 24, and she said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor." Ding, ding, ding. You can imagine the bells going off in the servant's head. And she said, moreover, to him, "We have both straw and provender," I'm not sure what that is, probably like a hay or whatever, "and room to lodge in." And the man bowed his head and worshipped Jehovah. And he said, "Blessed be Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham. He's not forsaken his loving kindness and his truth toward my master. As for me, Jehovah has led me in the way to the house of my master's brethren." So he's praising God, as we well should, when our prayers are answered, because he could see already that everything is falling exactly into place as he had requested the Lord to do. The Lord's providentially oversaw this entire matter. That gives me great comfort. I don't know about you, but I have great comfort when I read these stories, because I realize that God's hand is on all of these things. And if all I need to be is a willing, obedient servant, trying to surrender, trying to have victory over the spiritual warfare battles in my life, and eliminate sin as much as I possibly can from anywhere around me and in my life and in my heart, that's always going to be a struggle, right? Because we are born in a sinful world and we are fallen, but we do the level best we can, and the Lord knows your heart, and he is good, and he is able. And look what he did. He's able to orchestrate exactly what he knows you need. Not always what you want, but what he knows is good for you. There you go, right? Okay. He leads us and guides us. And take a look at Psalm 32, verse 8. "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you and watch over you." See, we can choose to counsel ourselves, but then he's going to stand back and be quiet. He's going to, "Okay, you want to do it your way? Knock yourself out." But if we are open and surrender to his plan, and we can, just like the servant did with an open heart, "Lord, I want your will in my life when I pick a business partner, when I pick a wife, when I pick, right, whatever I'm picking or wherever I'm going, when I choose a place to live, when I choose a church. I want your input, Lord. I want your will for my life. So Lord, show me, right? Can you make it clear? Can you show me this thing? Because I don't want to go to the left or the right. I want to be right there by your side the whole time. And when we do that, that's what he will do. He will instruct you. And he will tell you the way to go, and he will counsel you, and he will watch over you. What more do you want, right, guys? It's all about that surrender, right? That willingness to follow. Some people say, I can't hear God, and sometimes I can't either. But then I realize I need to stop talking. How can I hear if I'm always talking, right? It's hard for me, as I'm sure you can imagine. Okay. Verse 28, and the damsel ran and told her mother's house according to these words. And Rebekah, that's her, had a brother, and his name was Laban. Oh, we're going to meet him later. We're going to meet him now, but then we're going to meet him again later. And Laban ran out to the man to the fountain. And it came to pass that when he saw the ring, here we go, when he saw the ring and the bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spoke the man to me, that he came to the man, and behold, he was standing with the camels at the fountain, and he said, Come in, you blessed of Jehovah. Wherefore stands you without? For I have prepared the house and room for camels. So what's happening? So he sees the bracelets on Rebekah's hands, right? And now, and like his dollar signs light up. And he's like, of course we have room for you, stranger. Why are you out here? Come on in, right? So we're already getting a clue as to what this Laban guy's all about. You're going to see more of that later. He just kind of jumps in. Now, he's her brother, okay? But he's probably the eldest. Scholars say he's probably the eldest in the family. So he's kind of commandeering, he wants to make sure his little sister is taken care of. And, of course, the priority is money for him, we think. You'll see. And he's got his eyes, on the prize here. So he's more interested in the riches and the gold and the bracelets, and that prompts him to extend his gracious hospitality. Verse 32, and the man came into the house, the servant, and he ungirded the camels and gave straw and provender for, it might be food, provender. I'm going to have to look that up. I'll look it up and I will put the description in the description what that is. For the camels, and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men that were with him. Because remember, he had an entourage. It wasn't just him and 10 camels, okay? So, pure hospitality, right? Except we have a little bit of Laban manipulation going on here, probably. Later on, we will truly see how manipulative Laban is, but how he values money probably above all else. But nonetheless, kind of likes what's happening here. This is good to him. This is agreeable to him. Verse 33. And there was set food before him to eat. So they're going to feed the stranger, right? But he said, I will not eat until I have told you my errand. And they said, speak on. Now, this is kind of uncommon in a traditional setting where normally they would eat first and then discuss business. But he's so anxious to explain why he's here. And this is really quite honorable because he wants them to understand this isn't all by chance. This isn't by chance that I just happen to be in the area and then you happen to come out and then I happen, right? He doesn't want them, he wants them to understand, A, that he's here for this specific purpose and that God going to point to God and say, show them how God is in this too, because God has providentially orchestrated all of this. So he doesn't even eat one little bit of food, and I'm sure he's hungry too, before delivering his message. 34. And he said, I'm Abraham's servant. Now they know Abraham, of course. And Jehovah has blessed my master greatly, and he has become great, and he's given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and men servants and maid servants and camels and asses. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him has he given all that he has. You could already see Laban's little dollar signs lighting up in his head. Ding, ding, ding. One son inheriting all this wealth. This is nice. This is good for Rebekah. Now remember, Abraham's family hasn't seen him in a long time. Probably not since he left, but word gets back and forth, and they probably knew kind of what was going on, because they are now Jehovah worshipers, and a long time ago when he was there, they were pagans. So clearly, things have transpired. But this is so good, being about the Father's business. And that's what this servant is doing. He's all about the Father's business, all about his master's business, that's what Jesus said, by the way, when he was 12 years old. Didn't you know I'd be in my Father's house? I'm going to be about my Father's business. And that's what we should be doing. In all the little things that we do in our lives, we should always have the Lord prominent in our plans. And if that's alien to you, I'm just going to ask you to pray about it. Pray about it. Because he wants to be part of your life. He wants to be part of your decisions. He wants to be part of your financial planning, your career planning, your relationship strategies. He wants to be part of that. And he will never steer you towards failure. Never, never, never. Now, he may lead you to testing, as we have seen in the life of Abraham, but he doesn't do so without a great reward when you pass those tests. Okay. Verse 37, and my master made me swear, saying, you will not take a wife for my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but you will go to my father's house and to my kindred and take a wife for my son. So he's playing them up like, Abraham would not take a wife from it. And all those women that are out there in Canaan, he doesn't want a single one of them. He wanted me to come all the way back here because you guys are special, right? So he's playing them up. Verse 39, and I said to my master, perhaps the woman will not follow me. And he said to me, Jehovah, before whom I walk, will send his angel with you and prosper your way. And you will take a wife for my son of my kindred and of my father's house. And then shall you be clear from my oath when you have come to my kindred. And if they give her not to you, then you are clear of my oath. In other words, he's explaining to them that the Lord is in this thing, but they don't have to give her Rebekah to him. They still have that choice, of course. He's just laying out the case for it. He's laying out the case. But he's saying, and then my master said, if she doesn't want to come, just come home. The deal is off. Oath is off. No pressure. No pressure here. But he's kind of tailored it to kind of, he built the case pretty well, I think. Get God in there, put them up on a pedestal. They're great. Abraham doesn't want a wife for Isaac from any other place, and right? And now it's up to you. What are you going to do? Right? Are you going to say no to God? Are you going to say no to this wealthy man, Abraham? I mean, you can. You can say no, right? Free will and all that. Verse 42. And I came this day to the fountain. So he's telling them exactly what happened because he's showing them the providential hand of God on all of these events. And I said to Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, if now you do prosper my way, which I go, behold, I'm standing by the fountain of water, and let it come to pass that the maid that comes forth to draw, to whom I say, give me, I pray, a little water from their pitcher to drink, that she will say to me, both drink you, and I will also draw for your camels. Let the same be the woman, Jehovah, that you have appointed for my master's son. And before I'd even done speaking in my heart, by the way, he didn't say that prayer out loud. He said it to himself, lest anybody can accuse him of someone overhearing him and manipulating this whole thing. Rebekah came forth with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down to the fountain and drew. And I said to her, let me drink, I pray you. And she said, and she made haste and let down her pitcher from her shoulder and said, drink, and I will give your camels drink also. So I drank, and she made the camels drink also. And I asked her and said, whose daughter are you? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, who Milcah bore to him. And I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her hands. And then I bowed my head and I worshiped Jehovah and blessed Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter for his son. And now, if you will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. So he's putting the ball in their court, as we say in our modern vernacular. This is how it happened. God was here in the mix, and now it's up to you guys. What am I going to do? Am I staying here, getting Rebekah and going home with her, or am I just turning around and going home without her? So he tells the whole story. Make sure God's right there in the middle of it, right? So verse 50, and Laban and Bethuel answered and said, the thing proceeds from Jehovah. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. What are they saying? Well, they're saying, well, clearly God is in this. They trust God's providence. And they're not going to stand in the way of God, right? It's not for us to judge bad or good. God said it. God's the one. Okay? So we can see that God cares about relationships from this story, right, guys? God cares. God cares and wants you to be equally yoked, and he wants the best for you. Verse 51, behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as Jehovah had spoken. So what they're saying is, we don't have to think about this. It's evident that God is in the mix here. God is a provider. God is all-knowing. And sure, absolutely. Now, in verse 52, let's read it. And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself down to the earth to Jehovah, and the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment, and gave them to Rebekah. And he gave also to the brother, I'm sure Laban loved that, and to the mother precious things. So it was smart and prudent of him to withhold the really big gifts, all those camels loaded down with gifts and gold and all this, jewelry, and right? He waited for them to say yes. And then he said, oh, now and of course, it would have been acceptable to give a payment, a dowry of sorts, to the family of the bride anyway. So that's kind of what this is. But it's also, above and beyond, and a great big fat thank you to the bride's family for allowing her to go with him. Verse 54, and they ate and they drank, and then the men that were with him had tarried all night, and they rose up in the morning, and he said, send me away to my master. And the brother and the mother said, let the damsel, they're talking about Rebekah, abide with us a few days, at least 10. After that she shall go. So now, we don't know exactly why they wanted him to hang around for 10 days. I mean, it could have just been, a lot of hospitality. Like, oh, no, you can't just turn around and go. Stay, right? We want to get to know you, blah, blah, blah. Or it could have been, we're going to miss Rebekah, because they probably knew they might never see her again. So maybe they just wanted to tarry with her for the 10 days, okay? But he doesn't want to stay. He wants to just go. I mean, first of all, he's so excited because he just can't wait to tell Abraham what happened, like how amazing. Oh, God is in this. This God has orchestrated. God has provided. God has done every single thing that we asked him to do, and this is a good thing from the Lord. Verse 56, and he said to them, hinder me not, seeing Jehovah has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master. And they said, we will call the damsel and inquire of her. And they called Rebekah and said to her, do you want to go will you go with this man? And she said, I'll go. So they let her determine whether or not she should turn around and just go with him. And she's like, yep, I'm going. Verse 59, and they went away, and they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, our sister, be you the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and let your seed possess the gate of those that hate them. That's a beautiful blessing, right? You're going to be the mother of thousands and 10,000s, and and your seed will possess the gate of those that hate them. That means they're going to be in charge. Anybody hates them, tough luck, they're in charge. And Rebekah arose, and her damsels, her little servant ladies and maid servants, and they rode upon the camels and followed the man, and the servant took Rebekah and went his way. And Isaac, now this is nice, let's picture the scene. Like if you were watching this in a movie, you could picture the scene, the servant and Rebekah, all the camels and the men and her maid servants, they're all approaching where Isaac lives, right? And Isaac came from the way of Beer-lahai-roi. I always kind of screw that pronunciation up. For he dwelt in the land of the south. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at evening time, and lifted up his eyes. And he saw, behold, the camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes. And when she saw Isaac, she alighted, got down from her camel. And she said to the servant, "What man is this that walks in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "It is my master." And she took her veil and covered herself. So she's being very polite. She's being very demure. She's covering herself, right? Humility and, right? Like, young ladies, are you paying attention? Right? She's not flaunting like, look at me, I'm the bomb, no. She's just hiding her face, as was just really a position of humility and respect, right? Yeah. I often wonder, right here, okay, put this on the list of things I want to ask when I get to heaven. So, that whole trek of 900 miles, what were they talking about, right? Was the servant, extolling the virtues of Isaac, extolling the stories of Sarah? Like, oh, there's so much I want to know. Yeah, I can't wait to get to heaven. I'll be sitting there with Jesus, eating popcorn, watching all of the instant replays. Okay. Verse 66, and the servant told Isaac all the things that he'd done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. How beautiful is this story about a boy who loves his mother, and then when she's gone, marries well? Do we not want that for all of our sons and daughters, right? It is just an absolutely beautiful picture, and how the Lord had his hand in all of it. So on that beautiful note, I will leave you and we will gather again tomorrow and read Genesis chapter 25. Until then, stay blessed. All peace and shalom.